Okay. Dr. Hedegger. Bas Yisrael, a Jewish woman, loy tialed as a Ivedes Kechavim. She shouldn't be a she shouldn't be a delivery. She shouldn't deliver a midwife, I guess, for a goya. Why? Because ultimately, what she's doing is she's helping create, she's helping be mechaya another Oved Avodah Zarah. So, of course, the post can talk about nowadays where that's not the case, there wouldn't be such a concern. Aval Avodas Kechavim Meledes Bas Yisrael, Miyaledes Bas Yisrael, a goya is allowed to be a midwife for a yid. Bas Yisrael loy sonik bino shalavedes kechavim. A Bas Yisrael should not nurse a goyish child, again because it's being mechayeh them. It's helping give survival to an Oved Avodah Zarah. Aval Ovedes Kechavim menika beno shel Yisrael b'Yeshusa if she's in the property and under the watch of the Jewish mother. Zokt Rashi, menika beno shel Yisrael b'Yeshusa the Yisraelis. Only if it's in the property in the home of the Yisraelis. You definitely shouldn't give your child over to be nursed in the home of the Goya, because then she might kill him. Zog the Helig Gemara. Tanu Rabban. Bas Yisrael loy tialedes soivedes kechavim. Why? Mipnei shemealedes ben lavodes kechavim. Because she is helping give life to an Oved Avodah Zarah. Lavodes kechavim loy sialdes Bas Yisrael. Why? Mipnei shechashudin al shvichas damim divrei Reb Meir. So clearly Reb Meir argues in our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says that a Oved could be Mialedes Bas Yisrael. Okay, let's see Rashi. Oved Chacham lo Mialedes Bas Yisrael. Va'afilu acheiroi Yisraelus oimot oimus al gabo. Even if there are other people there, you could not allow a goyish midwife to work on a Jewish woman. V'chachamim oimrim Oved Chacham Mialedes Bas Yisrael bizman she'acheirus oimus al gabo, which is probably how the Mishnah, as long as there are people watching to make sure that she won't murder the child. But not if she's by herself. For Reb Meir Omer, it's also afilu acheres oimus al gabo, even if there are others there, because it's so easy to kill a baby and making it look like a mistake. So afilu acheres oimus al gabo nami loy de zimnin de monchela yoda apusa. The kotale, veloy mischazin, you can't tell. What does that mean? Apusa al metzcho shaltinik. She could literally squash the skull of a newborn. Makam shemoicha shaltinik roifes, where the skull is soft, like I guess right on top, the skull is usually soft. She would be able to crush the baby's skull. Veloy mischazei, veloy minkara shargosai. So it would look like it just happened, and they wouldn't be able to tell that the baby was murdered. And therefore, even if there's people around, Reb Meir holds you're not allowed to have a goya as a miyaledes. Kahi itza, like the example of a story where two goyish miyaledes got into a fight, and one told the other, Kahi itza the amr l'chavrita molda yudaisa bas molda yudaisa. So that's a way of cursing somebody. You Jewish miyaledes. So she used Jew as a derogatory term. Amr Allah. She told her, Nefishin bishta de'ahi itza, all the bad that this person did, that person did, referring to herself. What did she do? I spilled blood, Jewish blood, like an ocean current, or like a river current. That's how much blood I spilled. Zok Rashi, Nefishin bishta de'ahi itza. She's cursing her friend. You Jewish miyaledes. You kike. You know what ill and what bad should come to you? As much bad is communion shehishpalti mehen v'raktivin. Like the many people who are killed He Ufya the Nahar Ashkuma, I think, is like the current of a river. If anyone has an art scroll and it doesn't mean current of a river, please correct. But that's how I understood it. So you see clearly from the fact that this woman made such a comment to her friend, it was like commonplace that they would kill Jewish babies. In fact, the Gemara of Rabbanon, after hearing such a comment from a goita, how in the world could you consider using a goita to be your miyaladis? Amar loy, loy he loy. It's not that she actually did it. She was just speaking that way to curse her friend, but she was clearly being megazim. She didn't really do those things. You know, maybe 3 years ago, I might not have even understood this Gemara so good. But today, with what's going on in medicine in Canada and in many places in the world, where our enemies have openly threatened and talked about killing Jews, this is very, very real. Zok to Gemara. Bas Yisrael Leisonik. I wonder halachically today, if you have to ask a shaila before you get agreement, if you have to be very selective with whom treat you. Bas Yisrael Leisonik. Taner Rabbanon. Bas Yisrael Leisonik b'na shel Avoda kacham. She should not nurse a guy's child. Ultimately, she's helping raise a Avoda Avoda Zara. But the Avoda kachavim Leisonik es b'na shel Bas Yisrael. So Reb Meir is consistent with his shita legabe not allowing her to be a yaledes, so too she cannot nurse a Jewish child. But the Chachamim Avodas kachavim menika es b'na shel Bas Yisrael. The Chachamim she could bizman shacheres oimdos al gaba, as it is in the Mishnah Birshusah, as long as she's not by herself, she's in the Jewish home, so she could be watched, and we don't have to worry. Avo loy beinoi leveinu, but not when she's by herself. Reb Meir says, afilu acheres oimus lagabo nami loy the zimnin the shaifa leisama lidad me'avroi. You know what she could do? She could take poison before she even comes into the home and smear her breast with it. And when the baby drinks from her breast, the baby's going to ingest that poison, the katalei, and she would kill the child that way, and she would get away with it because no one would know that she poisoned the child. Utsricha, you need both these halachas, the machlekes by both halachas, side by miyaledes and side by minekes. Diashmin miyaledes, if I knew miyaledes only, vahikam rabban deshari. Maybe only there the rabbanon are mater to use a goy shemiyaledes. The loy evsher, where she wouldn't easily be able to murder the child, mishum dacheres roisaisa, because there are other people watching. Aval manika, but a manika where she can do it completely concealed. After the shaifel asam ladad me'avroi v'katalei, she could just smear some poison on her breast before, so there's no movement, no action done by her at all. There, it's much more clandestine, much more easy to conceal. So there you might say, Amy Moidi Le, Reb Meir, maybe the Rabbanan would be Moidi to Reb Meir, that it's not allowed. That's why we needed to tell us the machlokes, even by Menekas. Menika, if we only had a Menika, then I would say, Behikam Reb Meir Daser. Maybe only there did Reb Meir Aser. Mishum, the Shaifel Isam Ladad Me'avroi V'Kotlele. Avo Mialedes. Loy Evsher. It's not that easy to kill the baby without anybody noticing. Heichad Acheres Oim Sagaba, Ema Moidu Hulu Rabbanan. Maybe they would agree to the Rabbanon that a miyaledis is allowed. Tzricha. Frag to Gemara. Uriminu. Yehudis miyaledis oivedes kechovim bischar. A Jewish woman is allowed to be a miyaledis for a goya only if she's paid. Avol loy bechina, but not bechina. So Zokt Rashi. And then okay, Zokt Gemara, and for the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef. So I didn't read it. Remini Yehudis miyaledis avedes kachavim, and for the Gemara bischar, the brayso that we're quoting that says a Yehudis can be a miyaledis is only if she's paid. But our Mishnah who holds that she's not allowed to be a miyaledis for a goy, that's speaking bechin. Avoloy bechin. Rabbi Yosef bischar shari mishum eva. The only reason why bischar is mutter is because of Eva. We don't want to create anger by the Yidden. Dr. Rashi, B'schar shori v'shameva maslisan bechinam kamari. The moti lishtamuti lomemar tzrichani l'schar mizanoisai. She could say, there won't be Ava, because she'll say, listen, I need the money for Parnos. I can't do this for free. I have to go where I have a job. So therefore, Bechinam is Osir. But if they're paying her, she doesn't really have an excuse, and therefore we allow her to be the Miyaladis. So Rabbi Yosef Lamemar, Rabbi Yosef thought to say, Oilude oivides kechavim b'shabata b'schar shorim shemeva. Rabbi Yosef had a havmin to say that you could even be a Miyaladis on Shabbos because of the same svara of Eva. Zok Rashi, Ilude oivides kechavim b'shabata shori b'schar kibachol, just like in the weekday. Mishumeva. The inu chazi the miyadl and the shady dan b'Shabbos kibachol. They see that we are Mechal Shabbos, not called Chilul Shabbos. We help give birth on Shabbos. Shabbos of others, giving birth to a baby. So therefore, if you tell them no, they'll be able. So Rabbi Yosef had a tzad to say it will be mutter even on Shabbos. Abaye said no. She could explain it to the goyim why she won't do this on Shabbos for them, with an explanation that they would accept, and that is didan the minteri Shabbata are women who are shomer Shabbos mechalalin alayu. For them, will be mechalal Shabbos to help save their lives, to help them give birth. But titchu, your women, the loy minteri Shabta, they don't keep Shabbos at all, so therefore loy mechalalin. That's a very, very interesting point, and it's particularly interesting that the goyim would accept that, and it wouldn't be ava. They could say we're only allowed to be mechal Shabbos for Shomer Shabbos. For mechal Shabbos, we cannot be mechal Shabbos. So Rabbi Yosef Lamemar anuki b'schar shori. Rabbi Yosef also wanted to say that not only is it mutter to be a meyaledes b'schar, you can also be a meinekes b'schar. Again, mishum ava, because of ava. And again, Amalei Abaye, no. Yochel Memar, she can say, if she's a single woman who has never given birth, who is not married, I'm not sure how she would nurse, but Inolin Suve, I want to get married, and anybody who's single will be turned off, will be for echoed for me if I'm nursing. And and if she's a married woman, she could say, Loikam is the Hamna, but Ape Gavra. I don't want my husband to be for echoed for me that I'm nursing somebody else's child. So therefore, there's no Ava. So basically, what Abai is saying, the only place where there's Ava is delivering a goyish baby for schar during the weekday. On Shabbos, she would have an excuse, and for Meneka, she would have an excuse as well. So Rabbi Yosef wanted to say another hula. Hadatanya ha'ovdik echavim v'roy behemidaka le'maylam v'loy mirid. Roy behemidaka, we said earlier in the Masechta, it means that they're shepherds for themselves, not for others, because if they're doing it for others, they won't steal, because ain't them chayte v'loy. But if they're roy behemidaka, their own animals, they'll let their animals eat in other people's fields, so they'll be ganovim. And if they're in trouble and they're dying, you don't help them get out of a bar. But we don't actively murder them either. So that is the halacha. That is the halacha for these people. So the question is, asuki bischar, how about if they're going to pay you? If these goyim are going to pay you, get me out of this bar, are you allowed? So Rabbi Yehuda held asuki bischar shari, because once again they'll be able that you're not saving this guy and he's willing to pay. Amalei Abaye, there's no ava there. You could say, I'm sorry, sir, I know you want to pay me to help save your life, but I really gotta go. I can't help you. Koi Beria Igra, my son is on a bridge. Zok Rashi v'im lo yaridenu yomu, so they don't get him down there quickly. Or Igra's on the mountaintop. He's somewhere very high. He's on a precipice. He's in a dangerous place, my son. Sorry, sir, I can't help you. I got to run to save my son. I understand you're paying me, but when my son's life is at stake, I don't really care. I have to go. So there won't be able if someone says I'm not going to help the guy because he has a good reason why he's not helping the guy. Or inami, or another thing you could say is Nikita li zimna levei doyar. I am being summoned to the courts. If they don't show up to this court date or to this appointment where I'm expected to attend, I'm going to be in big trouble. I'm going to lose money. So therefore, there's so many excuses that you can give why you couldn't save this guy. There wouldn't be able. Ravo quoted a brisa in front of Rabbi Yochanan, and this is what the brisa said. That was the same brisa that we are discussing. Let's turn on Talmud Beis. Avo, you know who you are going to actively kill? Avo haminin apikurosim. Rashi says, Koimrim lavoitz kachavim, bein oivdei kachavim bein Yisraelim. So these are priests that service the Avoda Zara, whether they're Jewish or not. The Messiahs are malshinim l'sheker hamoisrin momen chavreim b'yad oivdei kachavim manosim. Either they're malshin l'sheker, or they will reveal to potential gangsters. Or they reveal to potential gangsters which person has money to be able to steal from. So those are much worse. Those people are moridin v'loy ma'il. Those people you will kill. You'll actually throw them into a bar so that they should die. Omar lei, so Rabbi Yochanan commented to Rabbi Vo, ani shoyna l'chol avedas achicha l'rabbis is a mummer. When the Torah says that you have to give back an Avoda that you find, so the pasuk says, "V'chetasa l'chamoyroi, v'chetasa l'samlosoi, v'chetasa l'chol avedis achicha, asher toivad nimenu u'mitzoso lo yisucha l'salim." I hold that even applies to a mummer. The rabbis is a mummer, so I'm very inclusive in the chiyuv to help even a mummer. V'yat amrit moridin, and you're going to tell me that you're morid? Zok Gemara, Same Mikan Mummer. So take out the word mummer. It's just minin and misoris, but not mumrin. A mumrin you don't moirid because fakert you even have to return an aveda if they lost it. Frank the Gemara, why did we answer that kasha? Why couldn't we just say there's two type of mumrin? Velishnile kan b'mummer oichel neves l'teavin. You know what type of mummer you would help and you would retrieve an Aveda for him. That's if he's oichel neves l'teavin. What does l'teavin mean? Kish eim lam basar. They're hungry. They don't have what to eat, and that's why they eat it. Kish eim lam basar shchuta. Rashi says. Aval einoi mufker liyos iser v'heter lefanov l'niach heter v'lechel iser. If he has an option to eat kosher, he for sure will eat kosher. But the moisen came, if they would even pick tray for food when they have kosher food in front of them, that's called a mummer lahachis. So kan b'mummer oichel neves lahachis. So why didn't Rebbe Vo told Rabbi Yochanan b'mumrin in this Mishnah where it says moyridin v'loy ma'ilin? That's referring to a mummer lahachis. The mummer that you help, that's a mummer l'teavin. Zok to Gemara, you know I didn't say that. Because Rabbi Vo holds kosaver oichel nevelos lahachas minhu. If mumrin means he's oichel nevelos lahachas, that's already included in the category of min. As Rashi says, v'atanil reisha minin. It already says minin. So therefore, the halacha is we couldn't say that mumrin means a mummer lahachas because that would include min. So mummer must mean even a mummer l'te'avain, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan can't agree with this brisa because this brisa says even a mummer l'te'avain. You're moridin v'lei ma'ilin. When Rabbi Yochanan holds fakert, you're supposed to help them. You're supposed to even give back their avedas. Rashi says some more halachas that we need to know about a min, about a mummer lahachas. Zok Rashi b'chama dvarim atzinu chilek bein min lemumar kagoin sefer Torah shekas min yisaref udahach. Now, there's a very famous Chazonish here in Hilchos Shchita who talks about minin, and he says all of these halachas that you have to be moridin v'lei ma'ilin, that applied in the days where Klal Yisrael were in charge, were both adinim at koiches. Nowadays, when we're on the bottom, chas v'shalom, there's no such thing as hurting or damaging a min. You know how you treat a min? With the greatest level of kindness and kiruv to try to help turn them to become better Eden. But nowadays, all of these harsh attitudes towards meaning do not apply. That's what the Chazon says. Zok to Gemara weiter. Itmar, mumur a mumur. Pligi ba. Let's look at the Bach. Pligi Bay. Rab Acha v'Ravin. Rab Acha v'Ravin have a machloek about a mumur. Chad Omer l'te'ovain. Mumur lahachis min hava. If you're doing a very lahachis, so you have a choice of eating basar shchuta and you eat basar nevela, that makes some of them to a min. The Chad Omer and the other one says afilu lahachis nami mumur. Even someone who's oichel levelas lahachis is not a min. He's still only a mumur. Eloi zeu min. So what is a min? Zeh ha'over avodah zara. That's someone who's over avodah zara. That's a min. Meisvei frek the Gemara. Ochel parush echad or yitosh. If somebody ate something that nobody eats, it's disgusting. Ein adam oichlin teyava. Nobody eats mosquitoes or some other insects. Nobody eats them. So that's already considered a mummer because that's already lahachas. So this is a good example of someone who's eating Isser lahachis, the katani mummer, and he's called a mummer and not a min. So it's fair on the Mandamar who holds that lahachis is a min. Zok to Gemara, no. You know why it's called a mummer and not a min? Because Hasam boy limitam tamidi surah. He also had a reason why it was a shtickle l'tayaf, even though no one likes it. But he wants to say, listen, we know the Torah asked us. I want to know what it tastes like. Zok Rashi litaim tamidi surah loy lahachis elamis ava litaim taimoy levishen Yisrael tayamim oilam. Since Ayid never tests these things, he's very curious. His curiosity got a hold of him. But lav davka should you interpret this as a lahachis nikah to say that he is considered a min. Gewaltig. So Tosfos has a comment, a very interesting comment over here. Tosfos asks, "Hacha boy lemitam tamid yisur." So therefore, he's not a lahachis. Tamer frek Tosfos. Ma'ishna oichel parish ayitosh, which is our case. Me'achol shkotzim u'remoshim dehumin af bistama bebrayis da'irish avesilayil. In the Bryce of it says that if you ate shkotzim u'remoshim, you're also a min. Over here, the reason why we're saying that he's a murmur and not a min is because he's stam as though if he ate it, you'll assume it's lahachas. But here he's saying, I want it to. This is also, you know, you never taste this. I'm curious to know what it tastes like. If he spoke that out, then he's only a murmur and not a min. Inami hasam katani oichel shkotzim remoshim. He's an oichel. It's a habit. That's how he lives. The mashma harbe bazach erzeh. The mikamaisa tom taima. He already tasted, so he's no longer satisfying his curiosity. That's lahachis. Parish echad or yitesh echad. He only ate one. If you only ate one, there you can say it's to satisfy his curiosity, and it doesn't make him into a min. He is just a mum. Okay, gewaltig. Omar Mar. We said maridin avaloi ma'il. Someone who's a min, the Bryce says, or a Messiah, a min and a Meiser, they're maridin v'loi ma'il. You actually actively try to kill them. You definitely don't try to save their life. So, Frank the Gemara, I don't understand. Hashta achuzim achtinon. If it says maridin, why does the Bryce need to say maridin v'loi ma'il? If you actively kill the guy, of course, if he's in danger, you're not going to save him. So hashta achuzim achtinon asukim mi boy. I need the Bryce to also tell you v'loi maridin. Amar b'yosef acham Rab Sheishes lo nitzracha. You know what the chiddush is? Shem ha'isa ma'ayla bebar. Let's say this guy was in a bar and there was a ladder there. Megayra, you take the ladder out. In other words, or if there's stairs, you could grind it down. In other words, there that loy mylin is a shtickle maridin, because it's not shut. You're not helping him get out. You're destroying his method to get out. Now, the guy will think you're killing him. Zok to Gemara, the nakat la'ela but he has an excuse where he could explain why he's doing it to avoid Eva. The Omar, and he can say, I'm worried that I don't want my animals to walk by here because if that ladder is still there, that step is still there, they'll climb down into the bar. So there won't be Eva there because I can explain it away. Rabbi Yosef Damar Tevayu, you know why you need to say Veloy Ma'ilin? It's also in the case where you're taking away his method of saving. If there was a big heavy rock, Mechasa, he's allowed to cover it up. So this guy could never get out. Why? Amar again, he could say there won't be Eva there because Lavura Chiyusa Iluya. I'm taking my animals on this path. I don't want my animal to fall in. Ravina Amar Shema Yisula Misalko, if there's a ladder there, you can take it away. Amar B'ina Lachusi Brima Igra. I need a ladder for something else. Now, Frek Toisus, and we'll see Toisus inside, I don't understand. You're allowed to kill this guy. So we're not worried about Eva. So why does the Gemara need to come up with an excuse why I'm taking away his method of escape? You're allowed to take it away. Who said you have to worry about Eva? Zog Toisvis. It's mashra that the reason why he's telling this to the goy or the person who's in the bar who he doesn't have to save is l'shtamute kehechid lo tava. It's to avoid a problem of Eva. V'temer freik toistus. My Eva shaycha. How is Eva even a factor here? If you're allowed to kill the guy, you're allowed to take him down into the bar. There's obviously we're not worried about Eva. So why suddenly now that he's taking away the person's way to escape, now we're worried about Eva? And the Gemara Yeshloimar, the Meridon is Hainu Kishiyadenu Tekifa Bizman Habayis. The Meridon Veloy Mailin are referring to two different periods of time. Meridon is when Yad Klai Yisrael Rama, when we're in power and Batadinim are in control, there you're even Meridon. Aval Loy Mailin. But the brisa that passes loy ma'ilin is talking about even in times like now where we're not allowed to do these things. We don't have control. Even if we don't have the power to do these things to the goyim or to minin, if you have an excuse where you could do it without getting into trouble, that then and only then should you take away his method of escape. If when we have power, we're allowed to actively bring him to his death, surely we should be able to not take him out. Surely we should so we go hashta the chusim machtinon kishiyedenet kifa asuki hashta miboy. Surely we don't have to help him get out of it. Kivan sheyuchal lishtamute v'lelach, since he can go away. So zok to Gemara. Nowadays you would need a way to deal with Eva if you didn't want to save him. Zok to Gemara back to Tanur Rabban. Yisrael mol es ha'ovet gechavim. Lushum ger. A yid is a lot of malagoy lushum geris. Lafuke lushum marano daloy. You're not allowed to give a bris to a goy if it's just for health reasons. Rashi maron is toilas yesh loy bar losay. He has some type of toilas. There's some type of worm, some type of parasite. For that, Yisrael is not a molnach because again, he's the loy the osler afoisay bechinam. You're not allowed to heal a guy. The Amr loy ma'ilin v'loy maridin. Okay. V'ovet gechavim lo yimel Yisrael. Don't let a guy be a moil. Mipnei shechashud na shvichas damim. Because we are afraid that they're going to kill the child. Divrei Reb Meir. So that's Reb Meir Shita. We don't trust a guy to do anything. V'chachamim oimrim. The chachamim say, ovet gechavim moles Yisrael, and ovet gechavim put mal ayid. If other people are watching, so that we don't need to be concerned that it'll kill the child. But if it's only the child and the guy there, you would not let a guy mal a child. We don't allow it. The zimnin The matzlule sakina, the knife can, by mistake on purpose, slip, umashvle krushovcha, and it will make the child the krushovcha if he cuts too much and damage the child. Rashi the matli, mata asak, and he could turn the knife to go where it doesn't belong. Hidemetagaminon, mata mishpat is matli din. So you see, the lashon matli is the bend. Krushavcha, misha nichris loy min agid min atar l'mayla. If anybody, if the gid is cut from the atar l'mayla, l'tzara guf, towards the guf, v'shuv ein moiled, such a person can no longer give birth. Or it doesn't give birth, cannot impregnate. For some Reb Meir, Reb Meir holds a goy is never allowed to be a moil. Urabini, we have a kasha. Ir she'ein ba roifa Yisrael. What if you're in a city that there's no roifa Yisrael that knows how to give a bris, but v'yesh ba roifa kuti, but there's a kuti who knows how to give a bris, and v'roifa v'techavim, and there's a goy. So you have a choice. Who should be your moil? Either a kuti or a goy, right? They say over a story where there was no Yiddish moil, so they had to have the galach of the city do the milah. So they said by the Krishma learning, instead of saying hamalach hagoy loisi, they said agalach hamoy loisi, because they didn't have any kosher moil. So ir she'ein b'roif Yisrael, but v'yesh b'roif kuti b'roif avdechavim. Who should you pick? Yimol ovet kechavim v'al yimol kuti divrei Reb Meir. Better the goy should mala and not the kuti. Rashi says because there's no din milah at all by the goyim. Therefore, she'ein milasoi l'shem avodas kechavim. When the goy does the milah, he can't have in mind that this is for the tzarech avodas kechavim, because there is no such thing by the goyim. She'ein dakam l'amos b'neim. The avodas kechavim don't give brisit, but al yomel kuti, don't let a kuti do the milah. Shemal l'shem d'musyoina shemotzei b'roish ha'grizim v'oivdin la'avoda. The kusim fears the chakidin, but they clandestinely are serving some demusyoni that they found, and therefore umal nispaneim l'shem yoynezu. And when they're mal of their children, they're mal l'shem is yoyna. So therefore, we don't let them be mal your children. But I'll call upon them. You have Reb Meir over here saying that you're allowing a goy to mal your child. When Reb Meir holds, you can't let him mal your child because it's too big of a sakana. So it's a stealing Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer yimel kuti val yimel doivet kechavim. Better let the goy mal and not let the kuti mal, not the goy. Zok to Gemara, why? So why does Rabbi Yehuda hold the kuti is better? So Rashi mipnei shechoshed al shvichas damim. The goy is choshed al shvichas damim, but not the kuti. So Zok to Gemara, we have a stira because over here Rabbi Meir says don't let the goy. Over here the Marbe says let the goy mal, and earlier Rabbi Meir said don't let the goy mal. Zok to Gemara epuch. Maybe you should split it around. You should split it. You should switch it around in this brisa. This second brisa you should switch around. Reb Meir amiyimel kuti v'lo kechavim. In our brisa, Reb Meir said if you have a choice in a kuti and a goy, give it to the kuti and not to the goy, which is consistent with what Reb Meir said earlier. And it'll be Rabbi Yehuda Omer ovet kechavim v'lo kuti. It'll be Rabbi Yehuda who says that you should let the goy mal. Correct Gemara. Now we will have a problem with Rabbi Yehuda. V'savar Rabbi Yehuda ovet kechavim shaper dami. Now you're saying that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can allow a goy to be a moil. But Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda said, how do you know that if a goy malos, it's a possible milah? Shenemar va'ata, you klal Yisrael, es berisi tishmar. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not even a kosher milah. Never mind sakana, it's not a kosher milah. So how could you attribute the psak that we pick a goy shemoil to Rabbi Yehuda if he also wouldn't be a kosher milah? You can't flip it around. And you have to say Rabbi Yehuda holds, let the kuti mal and not the goy, and Rabbi Meir holds, let the goy mal. How could Rabbi Meir say by us the goy can mal? We said earlier we don't let the goy be mal. You know what we're talking about? The moil that you're letting the goy be is only if this goy was a moil mumcha. He was known to be a moil. It's not stamagoy. Stamagoy, you're afraid he's going to damage or kill your child. But a roife mumcha, he won't hurt your child. You know why? Because leimar nafshe l'shavya krushav. He's not going to slip the knife by mistake on purpose and damage the child because he has a reputation to keep up. So this is a very important heter to use because when we go to use doctors and there are concerns, hopefully there's an overriding professionalism that nobody wants to mess himself up. Toshu says even if he's not a mumcha to do mila, he's generally a doctor. So still he doesn't want anything that he touches to go wrong. So there, even though he hates the Jew and he wants to hurt the Jew, but he won't ruin his reputation in the process. If this guy that you're asking to mala your child is a known, famous doctor with a good reputation, it would be mutter to allow him to mala your child. So now we're saying Rabbi Yehuda said that the guy shouldn't mala, the kuti should mala. V'sav Rabbi Yehuda kuti shaper dami. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you should allow a kuti to mala your child. V'tanya we learned Yisrael molas hakuti. A Yisrael could mala kuti, but the kuti loy me email Yisrael. Don't let a kuti mala a Jewish child. Mepnei shemol l'shem agrizim. Divi Rabbi Yehuda, because he's doing it l'shem avoda Zara. So we have a steer over here. In the brisa earlier, we said if you have a choice between a guy and a kuti, Rabbi Yehuda says do the kuti. Yet this brisa quotes Rabbi Yehuda saying you're not allowed to use the kuti. Amar Rabbi Yosy. Rabbi Yosy didn't like what Rabbi Yehuda said, and he said v'chihechan metzinu mila minatayr l'shma. I don't understand. You're worried that he's going to be mal l'shem avodah zarah? Does it say anywhere that the mila is like a carbon that has to be l'shem kedusha? Cut the skin off. That's the whole mitzvah. There's no special kavanah involved. So why should it be a problem? Why should it be a concern with the kuti? Rather, let the kuti mal till he drops dead. In other words, there's no concern. I don't care what his kavanah is. If he takes out the skin properly and is done properly, why wouldn't it be a kosher milah? But I'll call upon them. You see, Rabbi Yehuda holds that a kuti is not allowed to maul. If a kuti is not allowed to maul, how does he say in the Friedrich Brisa that if you have a choice between a goy and a kuti, you pick the kuti? So now we're going to flip it around again, and we're going to say Rabbi Meir holds in the Friedrich Brisa that you give it to a kuti, and Rabbi Yehuda says you give it to the guy. With the kasha Rabbi Yehuda. You might have a kasha Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that you can't let a goy mal because a goy's milah is not a kosher milah because it says in the pasuk Sher Nasati Atos Prishi Tishmor. So how could you let a goy mal? The halacha that a goy can't mal because dafka yid can mal. That's not regular Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Omer minayin lemila ba'ovid gechav miship psula tamad loimer ba'ata espirisi tishma. Okay, Rab Chisda. We'll go just a little bit weiter. My time with the Rabbi Yehuda. What is the svara of Rabbi Yehuda by plukta Rabbi Yosy, the apostle kuti? So why does Rabbi Yehuda hold that a kusi is not allowed to mal? Rabbi Yosy had a good taina. There's no didn't kavana when it comes to milah. Zok Gemara, dichsiv lashem himoil. So the pasuk, it's the pasuk out of context of v'chiyager itcha ger. If a ger comes to live with you, v'asa pesach lashem himoil lekol zachar. So he puts the comment before the Pesach and says, Lashem himoil, when you mala, you have to mala l'shem shemayim. Zok to Gemara, but what do you mean? Ahu b'Pesach ksiv. Isn't that by a korban Pesach? It's to Pesach l'shem. The l'shem shemayim has to be on the korban Pesach, not on the milah. The idach nami. I'm sorry. I skipped. I'm sorry. My time. Yudach says Lashem himoil. Rabbi Yosy himoil yimoil. It says himoil yimoil. It's a riboy to say that the milah does not have to be l'shem Hashem. V'idich haksiv l'shem himoil. Lamai says l'shem himoil, which means the milah has to be l'shma. So Rabbi Yosy will answer ahu b'Pesach ksiv. V'idich and Rabbi Yehuda nami yaksiv himoil yimoil. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it also says himoil yimoil to be marba. So maybe a kuti could also mal. So tomorrow dibra Torah koloshim b'nei adam. Rabbi Yehuda is not medayik from the extra yimoil. The fact that it says Lashem Himoil, he learns from there that the milah has to be Lashem Shemayim. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we were zeichen to finish Daf Chavav, which is Shem Havaya. Bez Hashem, tomorrow we will learn Daf Chav Zayin. Everybody should have an awesome, wonderful,
Okay. Yeah.